Welcome back. We're talking books today in our journey for joy in this life. And I am sharing with you one of my favorite fantasy series authors of all time. And I've been wanting to do this video. Ever since I started thinking about doing videos and thinking about talking about my favorite books or books that I liked or didn't like or whatever, any booktubing that I've ever thought of doing had to include these. And it's just time now. It is time to introduce you to my favorite series. There won't really be any spoilers, but I am going to give you on this video some info, some heads up, because my ultimate goal is to entice you to enjoy this series as much as I love and enjoy this series. So that's why I'm going to give you a little bit of the tea, a little bit of the info, so that you can make a decision yourself as to if you're going to give it a shot or not, which I just highly recommend that you do give it a shot. And how lucky are you? Like, one of my biggest pet peeves, with the exception to this, now one of my biggest pet peeves is when I get into a series that's not completed. And I'm like, no, I love it. I need the next book. I need the next book. I need the next book. Well, here you get the next and the next, and the next and the next and the next. You get at least 18, 19, 20 books worth that you don't have to wait for. How lucky are you? I know the series isn't completed, but I do want to say that each one of these books does have a completion. It does come to a healthy, respectful conclusion to each one. But then the next book picks up right where the last one left off. So what am I talking about? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. I am talking about, well, this book, for starters, doesn't do it justice, right? The Mercy Thompson series. This is about Mercy Thompson. She is a Volkswagen mechanic. She is a shapeshifter in a world of vampires, werewolves, and fae magic. So it's got all the good stuff. Now let me tell you, let me confess to you how I got into this series. Because there's 20 books, so it's been at least 20 years, I feel, because she doesn't usually come out with more than one a year. Wow. So let me confess to you how this came to be. Back in the day, I think any of us who like this genre, we read Twilight, right? We all did. We can confess it. Some of us were really sucked in at the time, really hooked, really enjoyed it. And I'm not gonna, be too embarrassed, because it got me back into my love of reading. We can look back at that now with a little bit of like, wow, did I really do that? Did I really get into that wholeheartedly? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. But when I finished that series, I was kind of like, okay, girl, I want some more like that, but I want some adult, right? I want some adult vampire werewolf. I want something that's written a little bit better. I want something that's a little deeper, a little more realistic, a little more just well written and well put together, well structured, that I could really sink my teeth into. No pun intended. And so I did a little Google search, kind of topic search, and I did come upon a couple of series that I had to muddle through first that were more rough, more spicy, more, romancy, more that I just, ended up not being really my cup of tea. And I did have about a year where I read some of that. So, I know what romance is. I know what spice is. I'm an adult. Okay, another confession. I didn't know that romance, spicy, existed in novels. I thought that just porn was in magazines. I didn't realize it was in books, not this book. But I didn't realize that you had porn in books, in novels, in romance novels. I didn't realize that until I was like 40 years old. Yeah, call me naive, call me slow, call me whatever you'd like to call me. I did not know that existed. So when I read a couple that were like that had some of this very clear very dramatic spice. I was like, whoa, what on earth am I reading? This is what? What is this? And so I did, read a couple of series that I was like, okay, well, okay, now been there, done that. It was pretty graphic, pretty detailed. I'm over it. And I got over it pretty quick. But I'm not naive anymore. Let's just say that. Let's just say I am not naive anymore. But I was. Oh, I was until I was like 40 years old. So after that phase, I really wanted the same kind of genre, but without all of that. I don't need that. And so I stumbled upon this Mercy Thompson series. Now, I am going to give you a little bit of info. When I read books, I don't like looking at the synopsis. I don't like looking at a Goodreads description. I just want a good yes or no. Is it good? Is it not? Because I don't want any spoilers whatsoever. So I'm really going to try and not give you any spoilers. I'm going to give you a little bit that you need to know to entice you into this lovely world, but without giving anything away. Just the joy, the pure, pure, pure joy of reading these books. First off, this is not book number 1. This is book number 2. I borrowed these out a lot. They got read in the beginning. They got read several times. Because each year a new book would come out and I'd have to read all the first books to get back ready for the next book. They really started out, I still think the artwork is beautiful on these. Even though they make her look like she's trying to be sexy. Okay, she's not. She never feels that she's sexy. She always feels like she's a mechanic with grease under her fingernails and no girly curves to speak of. Like, she doesn't feel that she's sexy or attractive or that there's anything special about her. But the covers do kind of portray that, and I just want to give you a heads up that is not the case. That is not the case. She feels the exact opposite, but I still think they just did a really good job on these covers and made her look lovely in a little bit sexy way, even though none of these books are really sexy. Just know that. But she is, and they tell you this in book 1 right out the gate, she is a Native American shapeshifter. And she can shape into a coyote really fast. In the blink of an eye, she goes from human to coyote. No pain, no stress, no struggle, just from one to the other. And that is all she can really do. She doesn't have any magical powers. She doesn't have any super strengths. She doesn't have any, magical healing, nothing. She's pretty normal, pretty average. And she finds herself in this world of werewolves, vampires, and fae, which are like fairies and goblins and Baba Yaga and all of that. So she kind of wants to just keep to herself. She was raised by werewolves, by like the king of the werewolf world and the werewolf pack of North America, and kind of was a rebel her whole time she was there. She pulled pranks. She had anybody bugged her, she would get them back. She was a coyote, which are kind of, they sneak around and they can be troublesome. And that's kind of her second alter ego, is she does kind of attract trouble. In the first book, which looks a lot like this book, it's just a paperback, a well-loved, well-worn paperback. And I borrowed these out to people. And when people first get them and read them, they're like, I would have never picked this up at a bookstore. That's why I want to show this to you. Because the first ones, I went and looked. They're brand new on the shelf. They're still there. Patricia Briggs. They're still there. The first book is called Moon Called. Still available. Looks just like these. And you would never give it a second glance. You'd never be like, oh yeah, I want to pick that up. You do want to pick it up, okay? So the first ones are all paperback like this. And there's like 6 of them. I have lent out 2. I have 4 here, okay? The first 6 are paperbacks, just like this. And they are a lovely, fun read. The second book, this one I believe, this one is out of all of these, one of my all-time favorites. So the first book gives you a lot of her background as this coyote, the shape-shifting coyote, in this world of werewolves and vampires and fae. And it gives you a really good taste of where she's at. It's in the Tri-Cities area. in Washington State is where where they live, where these books are based. Okay, so very much what they call nowadays urban fantasy. Okay, urban kind of nowadays in our time and in our world. And there's really vampires, there's really werewolves, there's really fae. So in the beginning, fae have come out to the world. Most people know they're fae, but they can look like little ghosts, little goblins, little fairies. They don't look scary, even though they are, and people have accepted them a little bit better. So they find themselves, or she finds herself in the middle of all of them. And she is just like, hey, I'm neutral. I want to be left alone. I got out of this werewolf situation when I was like 15, 16. I don't want to get sucked back in. She's lived on her own for a good 10 years, and she's got zero desire to get back into any of this supernatural stuff. But of course she gets sucked back in. She lives by a werewolf. She has a vampire friend who she works on his car, his Volkswagen bus. She inherited her mechanic shop from a fae who taught her how to be a mechanic. So she's got friends everywhere in all of these areas, and she finds herself in the middle of all of it in every single book. So fun, such good writing. You get to where you are in love with these characters. You're in love with her as the heroine forever. From book 1 till the series isn't done, till book 20, you love her. And you fall in love with the others that she is friends with as well. Even though you're like, that's a bad guy, I shouldn't, and you still love them. You still are so drawn in. Patricia Briggs weaves such a beautiful, magical tale. I've had people say this is some of my best work I've ever read. And it is. Like, she does such a good job with this genre. It's not disappointing. It's not cheesy. It's not foo-foo, over your head weird. It's done so well. Okay, so here's the first. I have 2 paperbacks that I just want to show you. Okay, again, she doesn't have all these tattoos in the book. They just try, I think they did beautiful artwork. Even though I'm not really into tattoos, I think that they did beautiful artwork to just depict that she is Native American, she's a mechanic, and she does not really have all these tattoos. They're beautiful. Then I just want to go into, so here's all of Mercy's books. These 2 are going hand in hand. They are connected, intertwined in all ways. And here you have Anna and Charles. They are both werewolves, so don't think it's weird. They can both turn into werewolves. They can both turn into people. But Charles has certain powers, a little bit more than all the rest of the werewolves. And Anna, as he finds her as his companion, she has a few special powers as a werewolf as well, in a good way. And they are lovely. Yes, they're a couple. Okay, you find out in the very beginning how they meet. Kind of sad, but kind of good. Charles is very protective, and she is very on the bottom of the pack, but in a good way. She just brings peace to a pack, and you get to find out how they work that out. But here's 2 more of these silly little pocket paperbacks, well loved, well read. And then we go into, with both of these series, which are intertwined, both of these series turn into these beautiful hardback books. So beautiful. The covers all are, they've got to be done by the same author. They depict her a little differently, but very, very similar. And they're all beautiful. They are all beautiful. And look at her beautiful Native American heritage, like in every single book. There's something depicting her there that I just think they did such a great job with. So now they're all beautiful hardbacks that are gorgeous on your shelves. I love these. a lot of these in this main area here, because this is my business and I have them turned this way, most of my books, so that people don't really have to look at all of the books. But these I do have this way. Because everybody asks me, what is that? What is that? Who is that? Do you like that book? Yep, yes I do. Want to borrow one? I love borrowing. I love lending. And I really want people to find them as beautiful and attractive as I find them. So with that, there's all of your Mercy books and a couple, 3, 4, I think there's 4 paperbacks that start here before the hardbound start. Look how pretty they are. Then you have Charles and Anna with 2, and then this is their hardbacks. And they are all beautiful, and they all intertwine back and forth. So these should really be read by date of publication. So if you look at the dates, I'm sure Patricia Briggs has a reading list as well. Get the reading list, read them in order. They go hand in hand in hand in hand. Something massive, massive happens in this one that totally affects these and what's going to happen in here because of this. So yes, they need to be read in order. They'll make so much more sense. And it's such a beautiful stories. So many beautiful, fun, powerful stories. So your first paperback, which I don't have, A Moon Called, is where you really get the foundation of what werewolf, pack life, political, patriarchy, how it works, how pack life runs, how werewolves run, and where Mercy finds herself in the middle of that. Then she has a vampire friend, and she gets introduced to the vampire seed and how they run their political agenda. And then you also get to meet a little bit of the Fae. And the Fae are the most hard to understand. The Fae have rules of their own that you may not really even know what you're talking about. And you just got to be careful when you're dealing with the Fae, because they are sneaky and underhanded, and you got to be really careful or you will get screwed. You don't want that. So Mercy navigates all these waters with all these people while trying to still have a life of her own. And each book, as I wait a year for the next book, and a year for the next book, and a year for the next book, all of these books, though, are just, as soon as one's over, it concludes, and then the next one starts within a week or 2 after the conclusion of this one. Then the next one starts, and the next one starts. So all of these books are, 20 years in the making, but they're about a year to a year and a half in actual chronological time. So fun. So have I talked long enough? Have I persuaded you? Oh, I really hope that I have. I'd love to answer any questions you have if you feel like you want to know if this is for you. There might be a slow burn romance throughout all of these. I mean, Charles and Anna get together. There's a spoiler for you, but you learn that right out the gate with the first paperback. Charles and Anna get together. They are meant for each other. They are little like soulmates, and it's a powerful little relationship. So you know that right from the get-go. But everything that might be spicy or is just a fade to black. There's just what's going on a little bit. It's very well written and very sweet, and then just you don't get all the spicy details. So I had when my daughter turned 19, she's like, "What's the big deal with all of these with this series?" I'm like, "Read it." I think my girls thought that they were spicy. Yeah, they're not. There's a little slow burn. There's a little sweet romance. You love Anna and Charles. There's a little bit, but nothing that you couldn't let be comfortable with anybody reading, and I wouldn't be comfortable recommending to you. I wholeheartedly, with all the joy in my book reading soul, recommend these to you, and I hope that you will pick them up. So start with the paperbacks, start in chronological order, start in the order of the dates, see if Patricia Briggs has a reading list, start at the beginning, and then it just continues on and it sucks you in. And I can't wait for the next one. I love these. These are the only books, mostly the only books I'll pay full price for, because I have it pre-ordered as soon as I know it's coming out. It's like, pre-order, put me on the list, ship it to me the second it's available. And they're not that hard to read. They're usually 300, 350 pages at the most. So they're a pretty quick read, pretty easy, and even maybe less. Yeah, maybe in the 200s. So quick reads, really good conclusions, really satisfying. You really get to the meat of what that particular story is about, and you get your the intro, the middle that's crazy, and then you do get a satisfying ending with each one. It may need to pick up a little in the next one, but you get your satisfying ending, and then it just keeps going. So once again, thank you for watching this particular video, because I was going to get up and dance. Like I wanted to, show my joy, show my excitement, my hallelujah for this series, because I love it so much. So there's my vibes. I'm sending them to you. Please read this series. You will not regret it. See you next time.